I'm going to show you how you can use macros to automate repetitive tasks and to learn your way around the DTE object, the application object that represents how you interact with Visual Studio, with the toolbars, with the various documents that are open, and so on. So let's start by bringing up the macro IDE. And just by show of hands, how many of you have ever brought up the macros IDE in Visual Studio? I find it's typically about 10% of the people have ever done that. We get this blank kind of module 1 given to us in this IDE, and we can actually type macros in here if we happen to magically know what to type. So I'm going to show you how I might do that. I'm going to call this guy testing, and I'm going to obviously call some method of the DTE. Now we get nice IntelliSense. There are lots of choices. You can see command bars, those are the toolbars, commands, documents that are open, the main windows, the solution, source control, all this sort of thing. I'm going to use this rather obscurely named item operations, and specifically I'm going to use the navigate menu. The navigate menu asks Visual Studio to open a URL. Okay, I'm going to type in the Visual Studio Extensibility Center URL, and our second option is whether we'd like it to open in a new window or to override what we're in at the time. I'd like a new window. And this is sort of Visual Basic like. We're certainly not putting semicolons at the end of the line. We're saying sub, but it's not VB.NET. One way you can tell that I don't have to say public sub-testing, I just say sub-testing. The other is there's no building. I just save this. It's a macro scripting language, and our new macro is available underneath Module 1. So when I come over back into Visual Studio, I'm going to go on the Tools menu again, Macros, and ask to bring up the Macro Explorer. This is a pane like your Solution Explorer or any of the other panes we have over here, and you can see this new macro that I just added here. And if I run it, we are going to navigate to that website. And it's a good website. It should probably be on the favorites in your Internet Explorer. Perhaps not the most urgently needed macro ever, but it gives you an idea, and it certainly gives you an idea that you have that IntelliSense to help you learn your way around what's in a DTE. Now, there's another way to learn your way around, and that's by taking a task that you might want to automate and recording yourself performing that task. That not only gives you something you can use, but gives you some insight into how this work gets done. So let's go back into our code. One of the very common tasks that a number of developers need to do is to put some comments at the top of the file. They identify sometimes the file, the project, the developer, the dates it was last touched, and so forth and so on. It varies from company to company and from team to team exactly what you record, but it's very common to have to put these comments in. And there's a lot of repetitive aspect to them. It's always you always work for the same company, and perhaps for a long period of time it's always for the same project. So let's automate the task of putting those comments into the files. And at the same time, let's get the DTE object to kind of reveal a little bit about itself by doing that. I'm going to go on the Macros menu again, and this time I'm going to choose Record a Temporary Macro. And this pops up this little toolbar that I'm going to control my recording in. So let's go up here and start typing in some comments. Let's say this is the something project. Sorry. Move out of the way toolbar. And I've actually made a little typo there. Let's fix that up. Project 2009 big company developed by Kate. We're not that big a company. Everyone just knows who Kate is. All right. So I've added this code, and I'm going to hit stop recording. Down here in the status bar, by the way, it's reminding you that it's recording the macro. Hit stop recording, and if I go back into the Macro Explorer, I can see here this temporary macro. And I can give it a better name, like add header. Now your names can't have spaces in them, they have to be function names. And first things first, let's see if it works or not. So I'm going to add another Windows form into my project, form 2, sure. Double click on the surface of it to get into the code. Go up here and run my macro. Wow, it works. This is a something project, 2009, big company, developed by Kate. Cool. Let's take a look at what code was created for us. Quite a lot. Quite a lot. And let's scroll it over so you can see a little bit better. So every single line is talking to dte.activedocument.selection. Okay? And that's your first kind of lesson from recording a macro, is that if you want to squirt stuff into the document, the active document, there's the selection, and you can call new line. That puts a new line in. Line up, that obviously moves you up, in this case up to the new line that we just created. And you can see that I typed some text. And remember, I made a typo. This call here to car left 5 is arrow keying over 5, then deleting, then putting in the little r instead of the big R, and on we go. Same thing here, I did the Y, then there's a delete left, and then I carry on with the by. So you can actually see the typos and the correction to the typos, and you could fix this up if you cared, so that it looked a little smoother, so it didn't have the arrowing around and the deleting, or you could just live with it and use it as a way to actually get this little bit of a header text into the beginning of all of your documents. When you're working in the macro environment, you have IntelliSense. You have even debugging. So you can work your way through a macro so that it works for you. And there's more that I can cover here to get the name of the project, for example, from your project itself, from your solution, to get the name of the developer. But I'll leave all that as an exercise for you to go and explore macros and explore how much more productive they can make you in your day-to-day programming. That's all.